My best friend's daughter trapped my son with a fake pregnancy until DNA ruined her. The plastic stick hit the kitchen island with a clatter that sounded way too loud in the quiet house. I just stood there, staring at it. Across the kitchen, Brittany let out this strangled, wet sob, while my 19-year-old son, Johnny, looked like he was going to pass out. He actually turned a shade of gray I'd never seen before and dry heaved over the sink. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he mumbled, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, refusing to make eye contact. I couldn't look at him yet. I was staring at Shelby, my best friend of 10 years. In a situation like this, you expect shock, panic, something appropriate. Instead, Shelby let out this high-pitched squeal that sounded bizarrely happy. "We're gonna be grandmas," she yelled, grabbing my hand and squeezing it hard. "Can you believe it, Erica? Our babies are having a baby." My stomach dropped. I physically yanked my hand away from her. "Shelby, are you hearing yourself right now? They're 19. Johnny starts engineering school in 8 weeks. Brittany wiped her nose, sniffing loudly. "I guess I can't go to Europe this summer now. I have to think about the family." She looked up at Johnny with these big, teary doe eyes. "Johnny, babe, say something. You're happy, aren't you?" He opened his mouth, but nothing came out for a second. He looked at me, his eyes begging me to fix this, to tell him it was a bad dream. But I didn't know how. "I need to see the test," I said, my voice shaking a little. Brittany's hand shot out, covering it on the counter. "I already showed you. It has 2 lines. It's positive." "I want to see the box," I said, stepping closer. "And the expiration date." Shelby's smile dropped instantly. Her face went hard. "Excuse me? Are you calling my daughter a liar?" "I'm saying false positives happen," I said, trying to keep my breathing even. "I'm saying before we start knitting booties and canceling tuition deposits, we're going to a doctor. My doctor. Today." Brittany burst into loud, ugly crying. "See? I told you she'd hate me. She thinks I'm trying to trap him." "I didn't say that," I said, even though that is exactly what I was thinking. Brittany had been obsessed with Johnny since middle school. Johnny finally spoke up, his voice cracking. "Mom, stop, please. If she's pregnant, I have to step up. That's what you taught me." That broke me. He's such a good kid, and she knew exactly how to use his own morals against him. "Fine." I grabbed my keys off the hook. "If you want to step up, get in the car. We're going to urgent care. Right now." Brittany froze. She looked at her mom, eyes wide. I can't go right now. My anxiety is really bad. Hospitals trigger me." "It's a clinic, Brittany," I snapped. "Not a trauma center." Shelby stepped between us, putting a hand on my chest. "Back off, Erica. She's fragile. We'll go to her OB/GYN next week when she's calmed down." "Next week?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "No way. If my son is fathering a child, I want independent verification before he signs a birth certificate or a lease." "I'm not lying," Brittany screamed, her face twisting up. "Johnny believes me. Don't you, Johnny?" She grabbed his hand and placed it on her flat stomach. Johnny looked at her, then me. He looked torn in half. "Mom, just let her breathe. We can go to the doctor later." I watched her face as she buried it in his chest. I swear, for a split second, she looked relieved. Not sad. Relieved. "Okay," I said, lowering my voice. "Take your time, but Johnny isn't paying a cent for anything until I see a paternity test." "DNA doesn't lie," Shelby snapped, grabbing her purse off the counter. "Come on, Brittany." They walked out, leaving my son looking like his life was over. I picked up the test she left on the counter. Positive. But when I turned it over, the display window looked weird. It was scratched, like someone had tampered with a plastic casing. I picked up my phone and called my brother, Jorge. He works in private security. "I need a background check," I told him. "And do me a favor, check eBay. Tell me if people are selling positive pregnancy tests." "I'm deferring my acceptance to MIT." Johnny said the words while staring down at a bowl of soggy Cheerios. He sounded totally dead inside, like a robot. I gripped the edge of the sink so hard my hands hurt. "What did you just say?" "I can't go to Boston, Mom," he said quietly, not looking up. "Brittany needs me here. She went to the doctor this morning while you were at the gym. It's bad." I spun around. Brittany was on the couch, wrapped in my favorite cashmere throw blanket, scrolling on her phone. She looked up and gave me a weak, tragic smile. "Dr. Evans said it's a high-risk pregnancy," she whispered. "Placenta previa? I think that's what he called it. I can't fly, I can't work. I basically have to be on bed rest for the next 7 months." "Bed rest? At 6 weeks?" That didn't sound right at all. Placenta previa is usually a 3rd trimester issue. But I knew if I started arguing medical facts, Johnny would just think I was attacking his sick girlfriend. "Dr. Evans?" I asked, pulling out my phone. The one on Main Street? Brittany stiffened. Yeah, but don't call him. He said I need zero stress. Your energy is really stressful right now, Erica. I'm just checking the billing. I lied, dialing the number before Johnny could stop me. I put it on speaker and set it on the table. The phone rang. Once, twice. Main Street Family Practice. This is Linda. Hi, Linda, I said, keeping my eyes locked on Brittany. I'm calling to pay a bill for a patient seen this morning. Brittany Miller. I heard typing on the other end. Click, clack, click. Then a pause. I'm sorry, hon. Linda's voice came through loud and clear. We haven't seen a Brittany Miller today. Actually, I don't have a file for a Brittany Miller at all. The room went dead silent. The only sound was the fridge humming. Brittany's face went from tragic victim to cornered rat in a heartbeat. They spelled it wrong, she yelled, jumping off the couch way too fast for someone on bed rest. They always get it wrong. It's probably under Shelby's insurance. Linda, I asked, do you have any patient with a birth date of July 12th, 2006? Checking. No. No one seen today with that birth date. I hung up. I looked at Johnny. She didn't go to the doctor, Johnny. She's lying to you. She just wants you to quit school, so you're stuck here with her. Johnny looked at me, then at Brittany. She started gasping for air, clutching her chest theatrically. I can't breathe, she wheezed, sliding down the wall. My heart, Johnny, help me. Johnny knocked his chair over, rushing to her. He wrapped his arms around her shaking frame. He looked back at me, his face red with fury. Stop it, Mom, he shouted. She's having a panic attack. Who cares about the receptionist? Maybe they made a mistake. Why are you trying to destroy us? I'm trying to save you, I yelled back, losing my temper. She is manipulating you. Get out, Johnny roared. Just get out of the room. You're hurting the baby. I stood there, stunned. My own son. The boy I drove to soccer practice and tutored in calculus was looking at me like I was a monster. Brittany buried her face in his neck, sobbing loudly. But as I walked out, defeated, I saw it. She was looking at me over his shoulder, and she wasn't having a panic attack. She looked smug. She had just won the first round. The sound of rolling luggage on hardwood floors is distinct. I walked into the hallway to find Shelby dragging 3 massive Louis Vuitton suitcases through my front door, while Johnny struggled under the weight of a bunch of garbage bags full of clothes. Black mold, Shelby announced before I could even ask what the hell was happening. The inspector found it behind the drywall in Brittany's room this morning. Toxic spores, deadly for the fetus. I stared at her. You managed to get a home inspector out on a Sunday? I have connections. Shelby sniffed, kicking the door shut with her heel. We can't stay there. It's a biohazard. I told Brittany, pack your bags. We're going to Grandma Erica's. You have a guest room at your condo, I said, or go to a hotel. A hotel? Brittany waddled in from the car, holding a pillow over her stomach. With recycled air? Mom said the germs in a hotel could cause a miscarriage. Plus, I need Johnny. He's my support system. She didn't wait for permission. She just walked past me and headed straight for the stairs, acting like she owned the place. An hour later, I found Brittany standing in the doorway of my home office, critically eyeing my desk. This light is perfect, she said, tracing a finger along the doorframe. We can put the crib right where the desk is, and the changing table can go by the window. Excuse me? I stepped between her and the room. This is where I work, Brittany. This is how I pay the mortgage. But it's the warmest room in the house, she whined, looking at Johnny, who was trudging up the stairs with yet another box. Johnny, tell her. The baby needs warmth. Your room is too drafty. Johnny dropped the box, wiping sweat from his forehead. He looked exhausted. Mom, can't you just move your laptop to the kitchen table for a few months? It's temporary. My job isn't temporary, Johnny, I snapped, and neither is my back. I'm not working from a bar stool. Wow, Shelby said, leaning against the railing, sipping a Diet Coke she'd already raided from my fridge. I didn't realize you cared more about your spreadsheets than your own grandson's comfort. That's revealing. They didn't move my desk that day, but the invasion had started. At 3:17 a.m., a blender went off in the kitchen. I walked out of my room to see the kitchen lights blazing. Johnny was standing there in his boxers, eyes red-rimmed, frantically shoving frozen strawberries into the machine. Brittany was sitting at the island, scrolling on her phone, looking completely wide awake. It has to be smooth, babe, she instructed without looking up. Last time there were seeds. The seeds make me nauseous. I'm trying, Johnny mumbled, fumbling with the lid. I have an exam at 8 a.m., Britt. And I'm growing a human spine right now, she snapped back. Priorities, Johnny. I watched from the shadows of the hallway. She wasn't eating weird food because she was pregnant. She was waking him up 3 times a night to break him. It's a classic tactic, sleep deprivation. She was making him too tired to think, too tired to question her, and too tired to leave. She took a sip of the smoothie, made a face, and pushed it away. Too sour, make me grilled cheese instead. Johnny didn't argue. He just turned on the stove. And I knew that if I didn't get proof soon, there wouldn't be enough left of my son to save. Morning sickness is usually messy and unpredictable. Brittany's morning sickness was weirdly scheduled. Tuesday. Johnny walks into the kitchen, she gags. Wednesday, Johnny leaves early, she eats 3 bacon, egg, and cheese bagels. No nausea. On Thursday, the cracks showed. Johnny was in the shower upstairs. I was in the kitchen quietly brewing coffee when Brittany walked in. She didn't see me standing in the pantry alcove. She looked fine. Glowing, actually. She opened the fridge, grabbed a jar of pickles, and ate 2 right out of the jar. Then the water pipes groaned. The shower upstairs turned off. Brittany's eyes snapped to the ceiling. She dropped the fork in the sink, grabbed her stomach, and let out a moan that was loud enough to be heard on the second floor. She rushed to the downstairs powder room, leaving the door slightly ajar. "Babe?" Johnny called from the stairs. "You okay?" "It's just so bad today," she wailed from the bathroom. Then came the sounds. Retching. Gagging. I walked over to the bathroom door. Through the crack, I saw her. She was kneeling by the toilet, yes. But she wasn't vomiting. She was sticking her finger down her throat to make herself gag. My blood boiled. I waited until they left for her acupuncture appointment, another $150 on Johnny's credit card, and raided the bathroom trash. Buried under a pile of tissues was a small brown glass bottle. The label was peeled half off, but I recognized the distinct smell. Syrup of ipecac, an old-school medicine used to make kids vomit if they swallowed poison. Lost something? I jumped, nearly dropping the bottle. Shelby was standing in the doorway, arms crossed. She must have come back for something. "Why does your daughter have vomit-inducing syrup in her bathroom, Shelby?" I held up the bottle, my hand shaking. Is the morning sickness not hitting the right notes without chemical assistance? Shelby didn't even flinch. She walked over, plucked the bottle from my hand, and tossed it back into the trash can. "That's mine," she said smoothly. "I had a stomach bug last week. Felt like I ate bad sushi. I needed to get it out of my system. Why are you digging through my daughter's garbage, Erica? Is this a new hobby? Or just another symptom of your obsession with destroying her?" "You had a stomach bug," I repeated, incredulous. "And you decided to treat it by making yourself vomit more?" "It's holistic," she said, flashing a cold smile. "You wouldn't understand. Speaking of which, stop harassing Brittany. Stress causes miscarriages, and if she loses this baby because of you, Johnny will never forgive you." She turned and walked away, leaving me standing there with the smell of old bile and fresh lies. She was good, terrifyingly good, but she made a mistake. She admitted the bottle existed, and now I knew exactly what to look for next. I came home early on Friday to find a strange man in my driveway, loading a massive black computer tower into the trunk of a Honda Civic. My stomach turned. That was Johnny's custom-built gaming rig. He'd spent 3 summers mowing lawns to buy the parts. It was his pride and joy. "Johnny!" I ran over, grabbing the trunk lid before the guy could slam it. "What are you doing?" Johnny looked at me, his eyes hollow and tired. He held a wad of cash in his hand. "Sold it! $700. $700? I screamed. "The graphics card alone is worth $1,000. Johnny, you need this for your CAD classes." "I don't need CAD if I'm not going to school, Mom," he snapped, shoving the cash into his pocket. Brittany was crying all morning. She saw a TikTok about how SIDS is linked to cheap mattresses. She needs the Smart Sleeper bassinet. It's $1,600. "So, you sold your future for a mattress?" "I'm selling my car next week," he said, staring me down. "CarMax offered me $5,000. That covers the nursery furniture and the deposit on our own apartment." "You are not selling your car," I said, stepping into his space. "You are stripping your life down to the studs for a girl who won't even let a doctor look at her." "Stop it!" Johnny's voice cracked, and for the first time he looked scary, desperate. "You're just jealous." I blinked, stunned. "Jealous?" "You're jealous that she loves me," he said, backing away toward the house. "You're jealous that we're starting a family and you're alone. You want us to fail so I stay your little boy forever. Well, it's not happening. I'm a father now. I do what I have to do." He slammed the front door so hard the windows rattled. I watched the stranger drive away with my son's dreams in his trunk, and I realized Shelby was right about one thing. It takes a village to raise a child, but it only takes 2 grifters to dismantle a man. Dad came through. 3 words that made my blood run cold. Johnny was sitting at the kitchen table, actually eating a full meal for the first time in weeks. He looked lighter. The weight of the baby registry and the toxic mold seemed to have lifted. I set my purse down slowly. Dad? You mean Thomas? The man who forgot your 18th birthday? He didn't forget. He was in Dubai, Johnny defended, his mouth full of sandwich. I called him. I told him everything about the baby, about the black mold, about how you're treating Brittany. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text notification, then another, then an email. Ping, ping, ping. I pulled it out. It was a notification from our joint account, the one we still technically shared for Johnny's tuition. A deposit had just cleared. $10,000. He sent us 10 grand. Johnny beamed, looking at me like I should be grateful. For the apartment, for Brittany's medical bills, he said he's not going to let his grandson grow up poor. I didn't answer. I walked out to the back deck and dialed Thomas immediately. He picked up on the first ring, his voice dripping with that smooth corporate arrogance I had divorced 5 years ago. I assume you're calling to thank me, Thomas said, for doing the job you apparently can't handle. I'm calling to ask if you've lost your mind, I hissed, keeping my voice down so Johnny wouldn't hear. You just gave $10,000 to a 19-year-old girl who hasn't produced a single medical record, Thomas. She is grifting us. She's a scared kid, Erica, Thomas countered. And she told me what you did, harassing her about expiration dates, digging through her trash. You sound unhinged. I sound like a parent, I yelled. I am trying to protect our son from a predator. You're trying to control him, he corrected. And I won't let you. That money is for Brittany. If I find out you touched a cent of it, or if you continue to harass the mother of my grandchild, I'm not just cutting you off. I'll sue you. I froze. You'll what? Emotional distress, Thomas said calmly. Interference with a high-risk pregnancy. My lawyer says we have a case. If that girl miscarries because you decided to play detective, I will make sure you lose the house. Back off, Erica. Let them be happy. He hung up. I stared at the phone. Inside the kitchen, I saw Shelby walk in. She saw Johnny smile. She saw the open banking app on his phone. She looked out the window, locked eyes with me, and raised her coffee mug in a silent toast. The glossy photo slid across the dining room table, stopping just inches from my plate. It was a 3D ultrasound, sepia-toned high definition, capturing a perfect little profile of a fetus sucking its thumb. Meet Peanut, Brittany cooed, leaning her head on Johnny's shoulder. Johnny stared at the image like it was a miracle. Tears actually welled up in his eyes. He reached out, tracing the paper with a trembling finger. He has my nose. Mom, look, he has my nose. I looked. It was incredible. Too incredible. At 10 weeks, a fetus is the size of a prune and looks like a gummy bear. This looked like a fully formed baby. It's amazing, I said, my voice flat. Especially since 3D ultrasounds usually aren't done until 24 weeks, and at 10 weeks, the baby doesn't have a nose bridge yet. Shelby stabbed a cherry tomato with aggressive precision. Dr. Evans has a new machine. It's experimental, top of the line. That's why the copay is so high, Erica. Right, I said. Experimental. I pulled out my phone. I'm going to send this to my sister. She loves babies. Before they could protest, I snapped a photo of the ultrasound, but I didn't open WhatsApp. I opened Google Lens. The search bar spun for 3 seconds. Then the results populated. I didn't just find one match. I found 4,000. That's funny, I said, turning the screen to face them. Because according to Shutterstock, this isn't Peanut. This is Fetus Profile High-Res White04 JPG. It's been downloaded 12,000 times. It's literally on the cover of a pamphlet for a fertility clinic in Ohio. The silence in the room was heavy. Johnny blinked, looking from my phone to the photo on the table. Brittany's eyes rolled back in her head. Her hand started clawing at her throat. I can't air. She's hyperventilating, Shelby screamed, jumping up and knocking her chair over. You triggered her again. Johnny, get a paper bag. Why is the photo from the internet, Brittany? I demanded, standing up. Answer the question. It's a placeholder, Shelby yelled over Brittany's gasping wheezes. The tech couldn't get a clear shot because the baby was hiding behind the placenta, so she gave us a representative image so we'd have something to bond with. It's standard practice in high-risk cases. A representative image? I laughed. That is not a thing. It is, Brittany choked out, sobbing into Johnny's chest. She said She didn't want us to go home empty-handed. Why do you hate me? Why can't you just let us be happy? Johnny looked at the photo. Then he looked at me. He looked confused, but the logic was losing the war against the crying girl in his arms. It doesn't matter, Johnny whispered, hugging Brittany tight. It doesn't matter if it's a stock photo, Mom. The baby is real. Why do you have to ruin every moment? He picked up the Shutterstock printout and held it to his chest, like a shield. I realized then that facts didn't matter anymore. They had him completely brainwashed. The bump was inconsistent. By week 14, Brittany's abdomen had become a medical mystery. On Tuesday, she looked 6 months pregnant, carrying high and tight. By Thursday, gravity had apparently taken over, and the baby was sitting low, looking significantly smaller. I started documenting it with photos taken from the landing. On Saturday morning, I walked into the kitchen to find Brittany leaning over the counter, eating pickles, again. The bump was leaning dangerously to the left, like it was sliding off. Your baby seems to be favoring the West Wing today, I remarked, pouring my coffee. Brittany froze. She adjusted her oversized hoodie, tugging it down aggressively. He's just active. Dr. Evans says he's a mover. He must be, I said. Moving your entire uterus 3 inches to the left is impressive. She glared at me and stormed out, but looking wasn't enough. I needed to feel it. Real pregnant bellies are firm but yielding. Fake bumps feel like foam or silicone. My opportunity came 2 days later. The hallway was narrow, cluttered with the overflow of nursery boxes Shelby kept ordering. Brittany was walking toward me, texting, her other hand protectively cradling the bump of the day. I didn't shove her. I just didn't move out of the way fast enough. I feigned a stumble over a box of diapers, flailing my arm out to catch my balance. My hand made contact with her stomach. It didn't feel like skin. It didn't feel like muscle. It felt like a stiff, rubbery dome. And when my hand hit it, there was a sound, not a slap. A dull, hollow thud. Ow! Brittany shrieked, throwing herself against the wall like she'd been shot. She hit me! Johnny! She punched the baby! Johnny burst out of the bedroom, eyes wild. What? What happened? She rammed me! Brittany wailed, sliding down the wall, clutching the rubber dome. She tried to hurt him. I felt it. Oh God, my stomach. I tripped, I said calmly, holding my ground. I tripped over the diapers you left in the hall. And for the record, Johnny's skin doesn't make a thudding sound. Get away from her! Johnny roared, pushing me back. He looked at me with pure disgust. You are sick. You know that? You're actually sick. If anything happens to this baby, I'm calling the police. I swear to God, Mom, I will press charges. He scooped Brittany up, who was now limp, playing the victim perfectly, and carried her into the bedroom, slamming the door. I stood in the hallway looking at my hand. I knew the truth now. I had felt the cold, synthetic truth right through her hoodie. But as I listened to Johnny cooing to her through the door, apologizing for my insanity, I knew he wouldn't believe me without proof. The notification hit my phone at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. Citibank fraud alert. Did you authorize a charge of $4,500 at Lux Events and Catering? I didn't authorize a sandwich, let alone a banquet. But when I walked into my own backyard, I realized authorization was a formality Shelby had decided to skip. My garden had been transformed. A balloon arch the size of a cathedral entrance framed the patio. There were white Chiavari chairs, a champagne wall, and a custom ice sculpture of a stork. Surprise! Shelby shouted, shoving a mimosa into my hand. We wanted to save you the stress of planning, so I just handled it. You're welcome. You charged $4,000 to my card, I hissed, scanning the crowd of strangers. Who are these people? Brittany doesn't even have this many friends. It's for the gram, Erica, Shelby whispered, leaning in close. Perception is reality. If she looks like the perfect mom to be, the internet loves her. And Johnny feels like a king. I looked at Johnny. He was wearing a dad-to-be sash, accepting back slaps from guys he barely knew. He looked happy. Delusional, but happy. Brittany was seated on a wicker throne opening gifts, but I wasn't looking at the throne. I was looking at the bar. Standing there, swaying slightly in 6-inch heels, was Mackenzie, Brittany's best friend from high school, and she was drinking heavily. I made my move. Hey, Kenzie, I said, sliding up next to her. Long time no see. Mackenzie blinked at me, her eyeliner slightly smudged. Oh, hey, Mrs. C. Great party. The shrimp is fire. Glad you like it, I said. I'm surprised you made it. Brittany said you guys were busy studying for finals last week. Mackenzie snorted, a loud, unladylike sound. Studying? Please. We were at the Sigma house until like 4 a.m. on Tuesday. It was wild. My heart stopped. Tuesday. The day Brittany claimed she was on strict bed rest because of cramping. I slipped my phone out of my pocket, hitting the record button on the voice memo app. Tuesday, I asked, keeping it light. Did Brittany have fun? I worry about her being around all that smoke and stuff with the baby. Mackenzie took a massive gulp of her drink. Oh, she was fine. She was going harder than me. She did a keg stand that lasted like 30 seconds. Legend. She froze. The alcohol haze seemed to clear for a split second as she realized who she was talking to. Her eyes went wide. Wait, she stammered, backing away. I mean, juice. Keg stand of juice, because she's, you know. Right, I smiled, ending the recording. Juice. Thanks, Mackenzie. She scrambled away toward the buffet like I was holding a knife. The camera was small, embedded in what looked like a cheap USB wall charger. I bought it off a spy website. It cost $50. I waited until Shelby took Johnny out to test drive minivans. Brittany was napping in the master bedroom, claiming the vibrations of the house were giving her a migraine. I slipped into the guest bathroom. This was the only room with a lock that didn't wiggle. I plugged the charger into the outlet above the vanity. It faced the mirror directly. 2 hours later, the trap sprung. I was sitting in my car down the street, laptop balanced on the center console, connected to the camera's live feed. The bathroom door opened. Brittany walked in. She locked the door. Then she did a check. She checked the shower curtain. She checked under the sink, but she didn't check the outlet. Who checks a phone charger? She stood in front of the sink and let out a long, heavy sigh. Then she reached under her oversized mama bear hoodie. My breath hitched. She didn't just lift her shirt. She unbuckled it. On the grainy black and white screen, I watched as she reached behind her back and undid a series of heavy-duty Velcro straps. She peeled the baby off her body. It was a silicone prosthetic, flesh-colored, complete with an outie belly button. She set it on the counter with a wet slap. Underneath, her stomach was flat, washboard flat. She scratched her real skin vigorously, groaning in relief, red marks appearing where the silicone had been digging in, but she wasn't done. She opened her toiletry bag. She pulled out a small plastic bottle labeled Quick Fix Synthetic Urine and a heating pad. I watched as she poured the yellow liquid into a clean sample cup, taped a hand warmer to the side of it to get it to body temperature, and shook it gently. She was refilling her supply. I hit record, then save, then back up to cloud. I sat there in the dark car. I didn't feel angry anymore. I just felt sick. I had the video. A rational person would have marched into the house and played the footage right then. But if I walked in now, Shelby would spin it. She'd claim the prosthetic was a support brace for the placenta previa. She'd say the urine kit was for checking her own protein levels. She would gaslight Johnny until he believed her. I needed an audience. I looked at the invitation Shelby had magnetized to my fridge. He or she, come and see Saturday at 2 p.m. The gender reveal. It was perfect. A captured audience of family, friends, and Thomas. I walked inside, hiding the USB drive in my pocket. The house smelled like fresh paint and deception. I found Johnny in the nursery, carefully taping off the baseboards. Hey, Mom, he smiled, wiping paint on his jeans. What do you think? Is the green too dark? It's distinct, I said, forcing a smile. Shelby breezed in with a clipboard. Erica, good. You're back. We need to finalize the run of show for Saturday. We need someone to manage the slideshow. Can you handle clicking a spacebar? I'd love to, I said. I actually have some really special footage I'd love to add. A surprise for the parents-to-be. Shelby narrowed her eyes. She paused, tapping her pen against her chin. What kind of footage? Just baby pictures, I lied. Johnny in the bath, Brittany at prom, nostalgia stuff. She relaxed. Fine. Just don't make it too long. Later that night, I passed Brittany in the hallway. She was munching on a celery stick, the bump looking suspiciously high again. She stopped. She looked at me. For the first time, she didn't see frustration in my eyes. You're quiet, she said nervously. I'm just excited for Saturday, I said, not breaking stride. It's going to be a day to remember. I saw real fear in her eyes. She knew something was wrong. Gravity is honest. Brittany is not. I was in the kitchen the next day when a scream tore through the ceiling. It wasn't a scared scream. It was theatrical, high-pitched. Then came the thuds. Bum, 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 thud. I ran to the foyer. Johnny was already sprinting from the living room. Brittany lay at the bottom of the stairs. She was curled in the fetal position, clutching the silicone dome beneath her hoodie. Brittany! Johnny threw himself onto the floor. Brittany, answer me, she gasped. The baby, Johnny, the baby. I looked at the stairs. The carpet runner wasn't scuffed at the top. It looked like she had launched herself from the 4th step. Shelby appeared from the dining room. Oh my God, what happened? Did you push her? I was in the kitchen, Shelby, I said calmly. She's bleeding, Johnny screamed, pointing at Brittany's sweatpants. I looked. A dark stain was spreading between her legs, corn syrup and red dye. She came prepared. This wasn't just a fall. This was the exit strategy. She knew the game was up, so she was staging a miscarriage to get out of it. We need an ambulance, Johnny yelled. No time, Shelby barked, grabbing her keys. Help me get her to the car. We're going to the ER. Now. Johnny scooped Brittany up. She let out a wail that rattled the windows. As they rushed out the door, I grabbed my purse. I checked that the USB drive was safe. I locked the front door and got in my car. I wasn't going to let them control the narrative. The ER was chaos. Brittany was putting on a performance in Triage Bay 4. She was thrashing on the gurney so the nurses couldn't get near her. "Don't touch me," she shrieked. "I just need to rest. I don't want an exam." Johnny was hovering, crying. "Babe, please, they have to check the baby." "I'm shy," Brittany wailed, pulling her knees to her chest to protect the fake belly. "I don't want a male doctor." Shelby was physically blocking a nurse. "She has medical PTSD. You cannot force her to undress." I walked up to the doctor. He looked exhausted. "Doctor," I said. He looked down at me. "Ma'am, step back." "That patient," I said, pointing to Brittany, "claims she fell down the stairs and is 16 weeks pregnant. Her mother is refusing an exam." "I'm aware," he sighed. "If she has a placental abruption," I said, "and you let her leave without verifying and she bleeds out, that's malpractice, isn't it?" He narrowed his eyes. "Are you a relative?" "I'm the grandmother," I lied. "I am telling you, she is delirious. If she won't let you touch her stomach, draw blood, run a trauma panel, check her beta HCG levels." He looked at the chaos. He nodded. "Nurse, get a phlebotomist. We're doing a trauma draw." Brittany's eyes went wide as the doctor approached with a tourniquet. "She needs to pee," Shelby announced, holding up a sample cup. "If you need to check her levels, just test her urine. She hates needles." She was trying to use the fake urine she had stashed. "I'll help her to the restroom," Shelby said, trying to haul Brittany up. I stepped in front of the door. "No." Shelby stopped. "Excuse me?" "She can't walk," I said. "She just fell down the stairs, remember? She needs a bedpan." Brittany's face went pale. A bedpan meant a nurse watching. "I can walk," Brittany squeaked. "I'm fine." "Sit down," the doctor ordered. "We are not doing a urine screen. In trauma cases, we need blood. Nurse, restrain the arm if you have to." Shelby looked at the needle. She was out of options. The phlebotomist tied the tourniquet. Brittany wasn't fighting anymore. She was frozen. She looked at Shelby, terrified. The needle slid in. They drew 2 vials. "Labs will be back in 45 minutes, the doctor said. The waiting room felt like a pressure cooker. Johnny had his head in his hands, praying. Shelby was pacing, glaring at the doors. Then the doctor appeared. He looked at Brittany. "Ms. Miller, I have your results. I need to speak to you privately." "We're family," Shelby barked. "Say it to me. Privately," the doctor insisted. He ushered them into the corridor, closing the door. 10 minutes later, the door opened. Brittany stumbled out. She was weeping, deep, shaking sobs. "He's gone," she choked out. "Johnny, the baby, he's gone." Johnny collapsed. He hit the floor on his knees, burying his face in Brittany's stomach, sobbing uncontrollably. "No," he screamed. "No, no, no." Brittany stroked his hair, crying. "I'm so sorry." I watched them, feeling cold. She was doing it. She was selling the lie. She had taken the news that there was no baby and twisted it into a miscarriage before the doctor could tell the family. Shelby turned to me, her eyes full of hate. "Are you happy now?" she screamed. "You did this. You stressed her out. You killed my grandson." She shoved me hard. "You murderer!" Johnny looked up from the floor, his eyes red and swollen. He looked at me with pure hatred. He believed her. I didn't yell back. I just touched the USB drive in my pocket. "Let's go home." The drive home was silent. Johnny stared out the window. Brittany cried into his shoulder. When we walked into the living room, Shelby started barking orders. "I'm packing his bags. He's coming with us. I won't let him stay in this toxic environment." "He's not going anywhere," I said calmly. "You don't get a vote," Shelby spat. "You killed his child!" I walked to the TV. I plugged in the HDMI cable and connected my laptop. "What are you doing?" Brittany asked, her voice trembling. She stopped crying. "Turn it off!" Shelby shrieked. "Have some respect!" I hit play. The huge screen flickered to life. The black and white footage of the guest bathroom appeared. Brittany walked in. She locked the door. Johnny looked up, confused. "Mom, what is this?" On screen, Brittany stood in front of the sink. She lifted her hoodie. She reached behind her back. "Ripe!" The sound of the Velcro tearing was loud in the quiet room. Brittany peeled the silicone stomach off her body and threw it on the counter. She scratched her flat stomach. Then, she pulled out the bottle of fake urine. The room went completely silent. Johnny stood up. He walked toward the TV like he was in a trance. He reached out, trembling. "No," he whispered. "No." "It's fake!" Shelby screamed, throwing a vase at the wall. "It's a deep fake. She used AI. Don't look at it, Johnny." "It's not AI," I said. I slammed a stack of stapled papers onto the coffee table. Discharge papers. I grabbed them from the nurse's station. Johnny turned and looked at the papers. He picked them up, his hands shaking so hard they rattled. Read it, Johnny, I said. Page 2, line 4. Beta HCG quantitative, he whispered. Result, less than 5. Less than 5, I repeated. That means not pregnant, not miscarriage. If she had just miscarried, the levels would be in the thousands. It's 0. There never was a baby. Lab error, Shelby yelled, ripping the papers out of his hand. They mixed up the vials. Show him your stomach, Brittany, I said. Brittany flinched. She wrapped her arms around herself. Show me, Johnny roared. It was a sound so loud and broken it scared me. He grabbed the hem of her hoodie. She tried to stop him, but he yanked it up. There was no blood, no bruises, just pale, smooth skin and red marks running across her back from the straps. Johnny touched one of the red marks. You let me cry, he said, looking down at her. I was on the floor, crying for my son, and you just watched. I did it for us, Brittany cried. You were leaving. You were going to Boston. I couldn't lose you. So you invented a person? Johnny asked. And then you killed him? I saved us. Johnny backed away, looking at her with total revulsion. There is no us. Get your things, Johnny said. His voice sounded old. Get out of my house. Johnny, wait, Brittany begged. We're leaving, Shelby snapped, grabbing Brittany. You win, Erica. Hope you're happy. Not so fast, I said, blocking the door. We need to talk about the $10,000. Shelby froze. That was a gift from Thomas. It was wire fraud, I said, holding up a printout. And this is your bankruptcy filing, Shelby. You have $80,000 in gambling debt. You didn't move here because of mold. You got evicted. Brittany looked up, confused. Mom, you said the inspector found mold. Shut up, Shelby hissed. She used you, I told Brittany. She wanted Johnny's college fund to pay her bookie. Is that true? Johnny asked. Shelby laughed, a dry, mean sound. I did what I had to do. Raising a kid isn't cheap. You're sick, Johnny whispered. I'm a survivor, Shelby yelled. Once Thomas's lawyers hear about this, you'll be sorry. Once they hear the recording, I said, you'll be in jail. Johnny didn't say another word. He turned and walked upstairs. Where are you going? Brittany cried. We heard zippers, then heavy thuds. Johnny appeared at the top of the stairs holding Shelby's suitcases. He lifted them over the railing. Catch, he said. He let go. The bags crashed onto the foyer floor right at Shelby's feet. Then he started throwing clothes and the disassembled crib off the balcony onto the front lawn. He walked down the stairs, phone to his ear. Yes, he said. I'd like to report a theft. Wire fraud. $10,000. You wouldn't dare, Shelby screamed, lunging for him. I stepped in. Don't touch him. Brittany ran to the kitchen. She grabbed a steak knife from the block. I'll kill myself, she screamed, holding it to her wrist. If you leave me, I'll do it. Johnny stopped. He looked at her. Don't do it, Britt, he whispered. Take me back, she wailed. I dialed 911. Emergency. I have a female, 19, armed with a knife, threatening suicide. We need a psych hold. Brittany froze. What? No, I was joking. She dropped the knife. The paramedics are 3 minutes away, I said. Sirens were already wailing in the distance. The police and EMTs burst in. She dropped the knife, I told them. But she threatened self-harm. I didn't mean it, Brittany yelled as they grabbed her arms. Mom, help! My daughter is just emotional, Shelby tried to explain. Are you Shelby Miller? An officer asked. Yes. We have a report of wire fraud filed by Jonathan Vance. He's lying, Shelby yelled. Turn around, the officer said, pulling out handcuffs. Shelby glared at me with pure hate as they clicked the cuffs on. You broke him, Erica. Look at him. I watched them load Brittany onto the gurney, strapping her down. She was sobbing, calling Johnny's name. He didn't move. He stood by the stairs, watching the ambulance doors close. When the sirens faded, the house was quiet. Johnny walked over to the shattered vase and picked up a piece of glass. She wasn't even pregnant, he whispered. No, I said softly. I deferred MIT, he said. I sold my computer. I have nothing. I walked over and put my hand on his shoulder. You have the truth. Call admissions, Johnny. Tell them you had a medical emergency. Because, honestly, you did. He looked at the empty spot on the lawn where the crib had landed. Do you think they'll take me back? We can fix anything that's real, I said. And this is real.